कि ऐसा नहीं होंगे वो चाबी दे दी चाबी तो चाबी है नहीं ना खींच के ही चाहिए होंगे
Thank you for this auspicious start. I'm starting it with the Agni element and have that source. Now I would like to invite Miss Anuja Kaushal, Miss Prerna Sethi and Miss Jyotsna Gupta to be here on stage to honor our keynote speakers, the incredible women out here, and just honor them with the token of flowers. And I request all the speakers of the day, the keynote speakers of the day, Miss Namrata Chandi, Wing Commander, and Miss Kamna Agarwal ji and Miss Manraj Agarwal ji, please be on the stage.
बढ़िया
Thank you so much for welcoming our guests, and I would like to invite Ms. Samneet Kaur to please introduce our first guest speaker here. And to bring into the energy to the house, I just want you to give it a great round of applause and welcome our keynote speakers. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Harpreet ma'am. I cannot say you, Harpreet ma'am, and Deeksha ma'am for giving me this opportunity. It's both a privilege and honor for me to welcome a true trailblazer and inspiration to LMA Women Forum today. Our guest speaker, Ms. Namrata Chandi, is a pioneer in Indian aviation and is a symbol of resilience, determination, and courage. She made a history as the first woman to fly in Siachen Glacier and land at world's highest airstrip, Daulat Lake Oldie, during her illustrious 30-year career as an Indian Air Force helicopter pilot. Amazing. Can we have a huge round of applause for this powerful lady? I have written a few lines for you, ma'am, if you allow me. भरनी है उड़ान, छूना है आसमान. भरनी है उड़ान, छूना है आसमान, देखेगा ये ज़माना, ऐसी बनाऊंगी पहचान. You are a living testament for all the women across the globe, ma'am, and it doesn't end here. She is a National Women Achiever Awardee and a Limca Book of Records honoree. Ms. Namrata has not only conquered the skies but also dedicated herself to empowering others. She is an accomplished motivational speaker, leadership trainer, and the author of Unseen Wings, a deeply inspiring story of breaking barriers and achieving dreams. Ms. Namrata's journey reminds us that with grit and passion, we can soar beyond our limitations. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Namrata Chandi with a huge round of applause to share her wisdom and experiences with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, for that wonderful introduction. I'm truly humbled. And thank you so much, LMA, for this opportunity to be here. Right. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all the leaders present here, the innovators, the trailblazers, the visionaries. You know, my story may surprise some of you, in fact most of you, because it starts from where very few or most of you will not expect to find a leader. I was born in a farm, in a village, and I was brought up in a small place called Rudrapur. And while living that quiet life, I had this fire which was burning inside me. A drive which I just couldn't explain what it was. Then I saw the plight of women in my family. I saw the plight of women in the society. And that made me realize how important was it, especially for women, to dream big and to relentlessly follow their dreams no matter how far-fetched they may seem. I remember I would be sitting at the veranda of my father's farmhouse and gazing at the stars. And I had found a very special affinity with one of the stars, which I thought used to guide me and talk to me. And I would tell that star to guide me to reach some heights, to reach for a purpose that was bigger than my life. But those days there was nothing certainly laid for me. The paths were not clear. But this fire kept growing inside me and it kept pushing me forward. And one day I saw this ad in the newspaper. And this was an ad from the Indian Air Force asking women to join as helicopter pilots. Well, in those days, doing something for women was not just it was not just seen, it was practically unheard of. Because we, as growing up as girls, we were not allowed to dream big. But for me, I thought that was my defining moment. I'm talking about times almost more than 30 years back. And some voice inside me told me that I had to try. This is what I want in my life. I put my post-graduation, I was pursuing a post-graduation degree in computer applications. We were the first batch. I finished 2.5 years of my post-graduation, very close to getting a placement and a job. I left everything and I just jumped at it. And a few hundreds miles away, my sister, probably she was also living the same dream, coming from the same background, had the same fire. She happened to read the newspaper and see this ad again. And without any kind of communication we could have with each other, because some of you may relate with me, the only way of communication those days were letters. There were no phones even. So both of us applied, not knowing that that would change your life forever. And later, we did happen to be the first pair of the sisters to have flown together as pilot and co-pilot in a military aircraft. My star, I thought, had told me, send this message that shoot for the moon, and even if you miss the moon, you will land up at the stars. And if your dreams do not scare you, believe me, they're not big enough. So breaking into the Air Force was the first step towards breaking the glass ceilings for us. And if you have to, the first strategy to break the glass ceiling is to dare to dream unbelievably big, unapologetically big. That's the first strategy if you want to break the glass ceiling. Then came a time when, there are a lot of facets about leadership, and being a leadership coach and having undertaken a lot of leadership positions myself, leadership is a very wide umbrella. The most important part of leadership which I have realized in my life is the ability to deal with failures, setbacks and obstacles. And believe me, I've had my own set of obstacles both in the air and in the ground. And it's already been covered, there was a time when I was posted to Siachen Glacier. the challenge is not just piloting the aircraft. The challenge is also facing extreme conditions, and giving up was not an option. So as leaders, it's very important, it is essential to be authentically who we are, knowing what our values are, our passions, our dreams, our mission, the vision that we have. The knowledge of this is absolutely essential. As leaders, we do not have the option of giving up, no matter how hard it gets. Every single day we have to show up and refuse to give up. That's really, really important. The glass ceilings that we talk about, they do not get broken in one single strike. They just crack bit by bit. And what it takes is a lot of strength, determination, persistence, and grit. And I also realized that leadership is like that solo flight, which takes a lot of resilience. It's a test of resilience that happens. And in life, when we are met with setbacks, and we will, believe you me, we will be meeting many setbacks in our lives. We need to take the responsibility of diving deep into it and asking ourselves, what is this situation trying to teach us? It is said, I just missed out on some of these pictures and breaking barriers. It is said that the strongest of the steel is forged in the fire of many thousands of challenges. And every setback that you come across in your life, every challenge basically is there to strengthen you. It's there for a reason. It's there to refine you. It's there to prepare you for what's going to come in front of you. And next came my first posting to Jesuit. Now this was the time when the lady pilots did not exist, and the culture was very much male oriented. So I was the first lady pilot to get posted there. And the first day in the crew room, it's so vividly engraved in my memory. I just walk into the crew room and I see 20 pair of eyes staring at me. And I could literally make out what's going on in their mind. Most of them were thinking, will she be able to do what we do? Will she be able to do the missions of this unit successfully that we do? And I knew why that thought was coming in. Unconscious bias has always existed in our society. But I knew why were they thinking like that. The role of the unit at that point in time was to do border recce's. So if you know Jaisalmer, most of you now, it's become a very popular tourist place. It's very close to Pakistan border. And those days, there used to be literally barbed wires dividing India and Pakistan, and there were a lot of BSF posts that used to be positioned there. So the mission of the squadron was to do border recce's to see that everything is intact and there's no infiltration. Which means we had to fly low and slow in the aircraft. In summers, the temperatures in the desert, they rise to about plus 50 degrees. Inside the cockpit, which is a glass cockpit, it's a glass cockpit literally in the sense it has a glass. And we never had air conditioners those days. The temperature would rise to plus 60 higher. So we would be flying in plus 60 degrees, flying low and slow. The sorties would last for about 2.5 to 3 hours at the stretch. And that we are not caught by the enemy radar, we would fly very, very close to the earth. And these were the missions that we were carrying out every single day. So I knew where that was coming from. But for me, the bigger challenge was to fit in, becoming one of them and proving that I could be as good as a pilot, if not better than the other colleagues that I had. So I worked hard. I professionally tried my best. I used to take on extra duties. I would take on extra night duties. I did everything possible so that I could be accepted to be one of them. But that did not happen for very long. Till the time I learned this very, very important lesson of my life. And that lesson is having a very strong self-image. Your own evaluation of who you are, it's much more important than how people evaluate you. And when that realization happened, it changed the way I thought about myself. It changed the way I behaved, it changed the way I showed up, and it changed the way how I connected with others. And of course that, alongside my hard work, my professional competence, I soon became one of the boys. It's been almost 30 years now. They are my best friends and my colleagues. So having a very strong self-image, ladies, is incumbent upon us so that we are able to break the glass ceilings. That's really, really important. The next tool of breaking the glass ceilings is to build strong allies. In my life, in my professional life, I've had some incredible people in my life. My mentors, my guides, my instructors, my colleagues, my subordinates, who have supported me so much. At times they have challenged me also, they've pushed me also, they've made me do difficult things. They have, at times they have pushed me to the limit, but they've done that so that I could be a better professional, right? So please build up, it's very important to build up allies. It is said that alone you can, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go further, go together. That's really important. So your allies, they help you to strengthen your vision. They help you to broaden it, right? They help you to be your best version, and they're always there to support you. So please seek them, support others, and whenever possible, you get an opportunity, try and be an ally for others. So that's really, really important. And then came my dream posting, my posting to the Siachen Glacier. And that was a long time back in 2000. And before I was posted there, I was told to be prepared to push myself beyond my self-imposed limitations and even beyond. Siachen is the highest battlefield in the world, and it is said that the best of the best pilots get posted there. Now, flying in Siachen comes with its own set of challenges. Flying happens without any scope of any error. A single mishandling of controls or a miscalculation can lead to a fatal accident. Then you have to brave temperatures as low as minus 50 degrees, updrafts, downdrafts, lack of oxygen, marginal weather. Living conditions were tough those days because technology wasn't advanced, right? And I remember my maid would come in the morning, and just to get water, there used to be a drum placed outside. She would break the ice, hand over that water to us, we would warm it up and use it. To keep ourselves warm, we used to use bukharis, and they would run on kerosene. And the smell of the kerosene had become an integral part of who we were. And for us, kerosene used to be like a perfume, we used to carry with us all the time. So that is the kind of living conditions that were there. At that point in time, I realized that my femininity and my resilience, they were not my weaknesses, but my strengths. And every challenge that I faced was a testament, or was an affirmation of my purpose in life. So as leaders, it's very, very important to embrace our authenticity, who we truly are, to be unique. That glass ceiling that we want to break, like I said, doesn't get broken easily. So it's very important, and also the realization that what really makes you different is what makes you powerful as well. And the moment I stepped into who I truly was, it made me possible to do things that I thought were never possible for me in my lifetime. So it's very, very important to embrace who you are. Believe you me, not a single person in this world of more than 7 billion population is just a copy of yours. A person, I challenge you to find a person who's just like you, looks the way like you, thinks the way like you, has the same values and the strengths and the vision and the mission that you have. Not a single person. And that's what makes you unique. That's what makes us unique. And it's really important to embrace that part of it. And it also comes with embracing all the flaws that we have, right? So we are who we are, the best of who we are, with a realization that there's a better version of you waiting next across the door. So yeah, these were the activities. Now, for those of us who are able to break the glass ceiling, it's really, really important to take others along with us. So every time you break a barrier, do not walk away. Go back and take others along with you. You know, as leaders, we all have stories that can inspire others. We all have stories that can act as a roadmaps for others to follow. And as a coach now and a motivational speaker, when I speak to a lot of women and I speak to some ambitious professionals, I share my experiences and my story not just to inspire them. I also share with them some strategies and tools that they need to follow. So every time you climb a ladder, take others with you. And we can all be that leader, we can all be that mentor, that catalyst that can cause a ripple effect of change for others to follow. So always remember that, you know, the breaking the glass ceiling is not about just leaving a legacy. It's about creating an environment where fewer and fewer ceilings remain. And breaking that ceiling will only make sense if we create an environment and make it easier for others to follow. For instance, when we joined the Air Force, things were very different, very, very different. We didn't even have male toilets, no changing rooms. The crew room used to be full of nude pictures because that was how the environment was. From there to how it has transformed now. You know, it takes a lot of time, that shift in the mindset that has happened, the acceptability that has come in. It's because a lot like me have worked towards it, right? Making it easier for others to follow. And after I retired from the Air Force in 2011, the only thing that stayed with me was that while my work culture was absolutely neutral, it did not distinguish, because the aircraft does not distinguish who's flying the aircraft, right? But the policies were not pro-women. There was a disparity there. So I went to the court fighting for permanent commission for women as well. It took almost 10 years for me to fight the court, to fight the case and win it. For me, though it was too late to go back, a lot of opportunity cost, which was there. But it did pave way for others, for other women to join the Air Force as permanent commission flyers, even in the flying branch. So I think this is what we can contribute, and there's a lot more that I need to do, but just sharing some of my experiences and some of the stories that are there. And as a final thought, you know, breaking the barrier may seem unbreakable, but believe you me, like any other limitation, it can be broken by a courageous heart and a determined mind. Because after all, it's made of glass, isn't it? So we will find many blockages, many obstacles in our lives. And you know, there will be a time when we think that the ceiling has been molded, it has been strengthened by outdated beliefs for so many years. What can we individually do about it? But when we all get together, it becomes a force multiplier. It can be broken. It is not indestructible. It is destructible, believe you me. So every time you face a no, you face a challenge, or you feel you do not belong in here, believe you me, that's a step towards a breakthrough. And as Eleanor Roosevelt had said, that nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. And may I add to it, that no glass ceiling can hold you back without your permission. So be that person. Do not wait for anyone to open the door for you. Build your own door and walk through it confidently. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's truly honored to see, to have the torchbearer or trailblazer amongst us. And will always, that line will be in my heart forever, that how you evaluate yourself is truly important than how people evaluate you. So with that note, I would like to invite Ms. Chavi Nagan, founder Indie Plum Apparel Group, to be on stage and introduce our next great speaker, Ms. Kamna Agarwal.
Hi everyone, a very good evening to all of you. And firstly, I would like to thank LMA for having me here, for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this evening full of learning. And having said that, I would like to introduce you to our next speaker, Kamna ji. Kamna Raj Agarwala is a visionary entrepreneur with 43 years of excellence at the helm of GDPA Fasteners, making significant strides in the manufacturing industry. Her commitment to breaking barriers extends to mentoring women and aspiring entrepreneurs, inspiring the next generation to dream big. As president of EduMust, she has transformed education for underprivileged children in rural India by integrating technology into classrooms. A certified empowerment life coach, she has touched countless lives, guiding women, students, and entrepreneurs to achieve their full potential. Kamna's journey is a testament of resilience, vision, and the power of giving back. Please join me in welcoming her to enlighten us with an inspiring story and insight.
Good evening, everybody. It's really a privilege to be here amongst, of course, our speakers who I think all women need to be inspired all the time. We need to be reminded all the time that, move it, life isn't stopping, even though the world tries to stop you. It's a privilege to be with women. I mean, I was hearing all the programs that you're doing. That's really, really amazing because obviously these are women who are gung-ho, who really believe and they want to evolve and grow. And I'm very impressed that we have a lot of men here, where I believe the men here are believers of women. They believe that women can be equals, men who believe that women need to be inspired to come to their full potential. So, thank you. I think it's wonderful to have you here. So my first question, since you know a little bit about me, how many of you women are entrepreneurs / professionals? Just raise a hand. Okay. I think a lot of you. So you would relate to my tragic comedy story, I'm sure, because I think all women who work have this interesting story to tell. How many of you are under 40? So the ones who are over 40 will weep when I weep, and the ones who are under 40 will not disagree, if I may say so. So my first question, I think the glass ceiling has been beautifully introduced. How many of you believe that the glass ceiling is imagined, and how many of you believe it's a reality? So a raise of hands for people who think it's imagination. One. Oh, I have a guy who says it's imagination. That's very nice. How many of you think it's a reality? One. So the others don't have a thought. I agree with both. So people who haven't raised their hands probably fall in my category where they couldn't figure out whether it's an imagination or reality. If I have to sort of put it in a word, in a sort of a concept or a word, I would call it imagined reality. You will all agree, from our childhood, we are told of our place in life. This is your role, this is your obligation, these are your limitations, these are your constraints, these are your do's and don'ts. All of these come from grandmother's stories, mere zamane mein ye hota tha. Then your mom picking up the stick and saying, don't do this, you're a girl, behave yourself, theek tarah khade ho. All of us have heard all of this. Our education, our circumstances, our situations in life. All of these do's and don'ts, largely more don'ts, start to create these layers of class. And each of us with our different experiences, our different sense of understanding, and our acceptance of these stories. So that's really crucial. We create these glass layers on our heads, our acceptance of these stories. So my question, are we to be the sum of our fears and constraints and lead our lives through this vision, through this pipeline of fear and constraint? Or are we supposed to understand reality as it is, as women should perceive it through our passions, through our potential? So that is the crucial question. No better way than a story. I love telling stories. Remind me of Tiny. And we've heard a beautiful story. So, if we have to have a reality check about, are those glasses that we have created for real, or are they forced on us and brainwashed us, is what we need to realize through our stories. And I think, as she rightly said, this realization doesn't come at the start, but as we evolve, and there is never a time to start. There is never a time when we can say, ab aage hoga nahi. I think all of us have to realize it's never too late. And there is always a time when we can reconstruct and we can recreate ourselves. So that's me. 1987. I was alone at the Cologne Messe, the German fair. Tribune said I was the only woman entrepreneur manning a stall out of the 80 countries that were there, which didn't ring a bell with me at that time because it was just a brand new experience. But everybody who sees this picture says, "Kaun si glass ceiling?" I mean, you're having a ball. You're managing the world. It seems so, and it's true. We were selling our product with dignity. I'm a great advocate of my beautiful country. It was with great pride we took our products there, and we sell 95% of our product into Europe, which I started out and I'm quite proud about it. But life is unfair. And it wasn't so at the start. Everybody, all my friends say, "Yaar, teri to aish hai. When you want to fly off to Europe, it's so cool." Yeah, it's cool. But how did it start? And was it cool when I kind of stepped into business in the early 80s? When in a place like Jalandhar, seriously, you shouldn't have been seen stepping out of your house. So I think my story needs to be told. My dad was, like many of us, middle class, upper middle class professor, and my mother was a demon. So all our lives were padho और first out. Second तो figure ही नहीं होता था हमारी life में. So our sense of understanding of failure just didn't exist. And now when we kind of come on these platforms and say failure is a great thing. I wish somebody had said that to us at that time. Because the pressure, again, one glass ceiling, one thick layer of iced glass, you cannot fail, is a pain. And that's how we've been brought up. So that was my start. And when you are so pushed to perform, all you can think about is putting the first step forward. So we had to be brilliant in study, brilliant in debates. I mean, we just were brought up in such stress and tension. And I think a lot of mums will, a lot of ladies here will sort of agree with that, because that was the time when parents were all like that, especially middle class parents. And we were always told we were very poor, which we don't tell our children anymore. And one pair of shoes, 2 pairs of clothes, and I used to always think, hey, I'm बहुत ही गरीब है. Well, my dad was pretty okay. So, that's the mindset with which you grow up. 16, they married me off, straight out of school. And I was a bright kid, full of spunk. I mean, I was a performer in school. And my image of myself for the future was I'm going to be an advertiser. I had a great way of words. I could write poetry. I used to paint. And I said, I'm going to get into advertising. I'll make the best advertisements in the world. 16 years and I'm married off. Because my father had a heart attack. We are Baniyas. And, in the Baniya space, getting married when your dad's not too rich and my dad was too ethical to collect any money. So we were pretty okay. So the best thing to do was, dad said, "Pata nahi, meri beevi to shaadi nahi karwa payegi, do ladkiyan hain." So my sister was married off at 17. She wanted to be a doctor. Dream smashed. I wanted to be an advertiser at 16, straight out of school. I was off into a very, very conservative joint family. And I had to wear a sari all the time, by the way. That's when I'm good at it. And I had a baby at 16 years and 9 months. Totally from the pressure कि लड़का पैदा करना है, तो you're in a big, illustrious business family, and the next best thing that you're supposed to be doing is procreating and having a baby, so you have a baby. And there my dad, a professor, Harvard, Cornell, Sigma ki guy, who marries me off at 16, tells me, hello, just because you get married doesn't mean that it's the end of life, apni padhai khatam karo. So there I am, 9 months pregnant, trying to fit into a chair in the university because I couldn't slide in because I was so fat. But I had to take my BA exams. And because of the pressure of education that your parents create for you, I completed my graduation. Studies give over, and we are not allowed out of the house really. You stay at home. I have a mother-in-law, father-in-law, grandmother-in-law, grandfather-in-law. I'm the only butt of everybody's center of control. Fun days, but if you have the spirit, you have the spirit. And here I want to bring a point that opportunities come in any which way. And everybody used to tell me, your life is ended. Gosh, poor you. And I had lots of these friends from school. I was in a boys' school by then. And all my friends were boys. That's why I'm spunky. I don't care about anything. Because I think the boys, studying in Patiala with 6'2" boys, very hammer you. And I was the only girl in class, so I used to hammer them back. So, gives you that resilience. Our business tanked. Dad used to have a business, my father-in-law, 1,600 people. We were the stars of Jalandhar. But things happened. And he's a really ethical guy, good guy. He really ran his business well. But, in those times, businesses were such that, competitions didn't happen. Things didn't happen. Everything just ran. And we just made a lot of money. And suddenly, the world changed. I mean, the disruption isn't like it's now, but disruption happens. And I think the family couldn't deal with it, he couldn't deal with it, so the business tanked, and suddenly we were poor. And suddenly, husband, he's the only son, and father-in-law we were just in a bad place. And I was at home, and I said, gosh, this is really a bad place. People coming to us for money, and, the electricity bills not getting paid, and 1,600 workers, and suddenly they're all suing you. So it was you can understand, most of you are from the business space, how horrible that must be. And I said, gosh. So I jumped up with my grandfather-in-law, who really used to think I'm wow because my English skills were so good. You know, Jalanda, who speaks such cool English. So I told him, मुझे कुछ करना है, मुझे ऑफिस ले जाओ, मुझे कुछ करना है, मुझे ऑफिस ले जाओ. In Jalanda there wasn't much else to do really, except kitty parties. That wasn't really my scene. So I was very padaku type. I used to read all the time, and he used to think I was quite bright. So I said, मुझे ऑफिस ले जाओ. So he said, चलो. So because all help was needed at that time. So dad being a mathematician, I had good genes. So I did all their ledgers, I corrected their paper. They gave me a room 3 feet by 3 feet, so I wasn't visible. Nobody could see me, fine. And that was my opportunity. So I just feel in the worst of circumstances, remember when opportunity comes, don't let it go. So I kind of told them, kuch hi kaam de do mujhe. So sales tax returns, sales tax ke wo 22 number form hote the, people wouldn't pay us. So I said, ye sare main paise la dungi. So I sat down, took all those companies, and they thought I was pretty clever. I mean, I was getting things done. Nobody said I was clever. Men never acknowledge that at the early. So be prepared. Don't expect accolades. Expect brickbats. So I made myself pretty useful. And it was one step after another. And another opportunity came where I bumped into somebody and they said, you know, if you want to export, there is a program in Netherlands. So I was sitting in office, I applied. And they replied back and said, Aajao. And I said, oh, hey, that's cool. So I told my husband, you know, and that time, exports was tax-free. So income tax-free. And banks were giving us money for exports. And we had no money. We were really in a bad way. So I went to my father-in-law, I said, what deadly opportunity hai. Export mein, agar hum kar lenge, to bank bhi paise de dega. Or tax bhi nahi dena padega. So let's do it. And dad was under the burden of depression and misery, and he said, nahi hone wala. I don't want to go. I don't think it's a good idea. We have so much problems right now. I went to husband and husband said, are you nuts? Hamara maal kaun kharidega? Pehle yahi nahi bik raha. You got to be crazy. So I said, acha dono ne nahi janta, main hi chali jati. So they said, acha tu nahi jana, tu chale ja. They didn't think much of me really. So I hadn't a clue what I was doing. I hadn't a clue of products. So I came to good old Ludhiana. 3 years to Ludhiana. And I said, how do you export karna? Trust me, I was school pass, not an engineer. I imported around the factory a lot, so I learned a lot because I was always in the factory. I said, export karna hai, to hame products do. I went to some 10-15 factories who knew me and I said, they said, ye bhi le jao madam. Ye bhi le jao madam. So I had a whole thela of samples. So I got the samples, packed them really nicely and created a brochure because we used to make fasteners as one of our lines. So I videotaped it, took pictures, all impromptu, I hadn't a clue. And writing skills, I wrote a really nice brochure. And we went for the study program. The government gave me some $2,000. After fighting with RBI, we reached Netherlands. Great, because it was a learning program. There were a lot of people. I was the only woman. Everybody else was an MBA, by the way, in that program, except for me. But, you know, when you're in spaces like that, you realize your own potential. I really felt that in that whole group of 25 people who were there, and there were South Americans, Africans, Asians, those are the kind of people Europe helps. I really felt I was quite clever. So that was my first wow moment where I realized, you know, even though I have no education and they were all MBAs, I was supposed to feel inhibited, I didn't. So, from all these experiences, we have now reached to a place where I kind of run the business and I do the strategy, I do product development. It's been a long journey, 45 years in. I love my business with a passion. I would still have loved to do advertising, but God has His ways. So my experiences have taught me a couple of things which I want to share. And I would also like to share some tools which I feel all of us as women need to use. As Namrata said, you have to have a dream. You know, because as you go along in life, your dreams are going to get crushed. You don't have a choice. But if you don't have a dream, you don't have something to focus on. So have a dream. She said have a big dream. Some of us earthlings can't have big dreams because we don't even know how to think big. So I feel if you can think big, super. But if you can't think big, think silly. But have a silly dream. You must. Please listen to my silly dream. My silly dream was I'm on the airport with a briefcase with stiletto heels. And I'm doing business. That's it. I had no clue wo kahan se aayega. We had no export business, nothing. But I had that dream. And I followed that dream. My stiletto heels and my suit, my business suit and my bag. I actually managed to do it because I said, kahin na kahin koi rasta niklega, mujhe wo hi karna hai. So have a dream, silly as it may be, but it will give you a focus and a purpose. Quantify your limiting beliefs. These are mine. The world is not safe. I am not perfect. I have to keep everybody happy. It took me some time to put this together. I don't deserve to be loved. I don't deserve to be happy. I lived for a long time with this thought in my head. If I get happy, kuch ulta ho jayega. Seriously, this comes from, when you have really a very tight upbringing, you really are so phobic. We are filled with fear. The elimination of fear is really one of the biggest things one needs to do. Quantify all of this because we are good enough. We are not answerable to the whole world for the world running perfectly. We have our peace. Let the rest be given to others. We sit on this high pedestal, and I sat on this pedestal for 30 years of my life with everybody imposing on me. Till one fine day I said, hello, somebody else has also got to do something, right? Just because you do it and you do it well, then you take this whole burden on yourself, creates 10 glass ceilings on your head. Not good enough, 10 more glass ceilings. You don't look good or you're fat, another 10 glass ceilings. Who cares? Really? Seriously? Are you supposed to be good looking all the time? It's not important. If you have a persona and you build yourself, everything else becomes immaterial. So I think this was one game changer for me. You become what you believe. When you put all those limitations down, you need help. I want to share this because I became a life coach after I acquired a coach. I had a burnout when I was 50. My kids were young, teens and plus. They constantly put the guilt in my head कि मम्मियाँ तो ये करती हैं, आप तो हमें ये नहीं कराते, आप तो घर नहीं होते. It's a working women. You must have heard it, right? Work is not going to lighten up. If you are serious about your work, you have to perform 1.5 times, as she said. You have to ensure people realize you're better than them. Doesn't come easy, doesn't come for free, right? So you have to put your gut and your backside there to show people that you know what you're doing, right? How are you going to do all of that? Where are you? Where are you when you're so extended in this space? You need a coach. I burned out and I went to my brother in England and I said, मुझे ना अफ्रीका में कहीं काम ले दे. I'm running away from home and work. I've done enough. अभी वो संभालें. मुझे ना कोई वो NGO में देते, मैं सब उनका काम करूँगी, बच्चे संभालूंगी. My brother told me, are you nuts? Your kids are not settled. You're in the center of business and you want to walk off. It's not going to happen. So go back. But I'll get you a coach. So I said, क्या इंग्लैंड का कोच मुझे समझेगा? हमारी तो इंडियन प्रॉब्लम है. He said, मैं पैसे दे रहा हूँ ना कोच को, तो इधर क्या है, तू जाके बैठ जा. Trust me, 2 sessions. She said one thing which I want to repeat, which I think all of you need to hear. She said, you have told me your life story because, as coaches, you make the person speak. She said, you've been talking to me for 45 minutes. You've told me your life story, so it's like a picture book. But in this picture book, you don't exist. You are not in this picture book. And you are the protagonist of the story. So you need to get back into your story. The next session that she gave me, she told me how and what I needed to do to bring myself into my picture. And when I came back, I had words with my husband, words with my kids, and I said, sorry, but I need to be back in my picture and I need to do what I need to do. So a coach helps you first look at your potential, second identify your passions, which you've forgotten, which you used to have in school and college, great stuff that you love to do, it's all under the carpet. Third, what your circumstances today, and fourth, how you can integrate them all to bring them all into your system today. And I think that was a wow moment for me. It's changed my life, and I think a lot of women need that, and you should acquire a coach if you are distressed and stressed and can't figure out how your life and where your life is going. Please get ready to learn. I have the zillion women that I meet in Jalandhar, Ludhiana and all have just completely forgotten to study, completely forgotten to learn, completely forgotten to go back to learning. In today's world of disruption, you have to be where the world is. You cannot be at home and say, nah, ghar mein hame sab samajh aa jayega. You will never get that confidence. Right through COVID, I went back to Stanford and did a program. I did a program for business ethics. I've done a program for digital marketing. I have been studying right throughout. Today I'm doing the IICA program for understanding corporate governance. Because I don't know these things. I don't know them. So when somebody says something and I look at them and say, yeah, ye kya bola, mujhe to samajh nahi aayi. I say, sorry, but I need to learn. So I think all of us as women need to get back to studying. Get back to connecting with knowledge. I think that's most important. Focus on your ultimate picture. We've already said that. Hard work pays. I know a lot of women of Ludhiana. I've done a couple of programs. They'll say, yaar, 4 bari jhaad husband se pad gaye, we went into the family business, hum to wapas aa gaye. Sorry. Resilience and hard work is the only way. Till the time you don't prove with hard work that you are 2 times a guy, you don't have a picture, you don't have a story to sell. So hard work is non-negotiable. Pessimists ignore. Please ignore. When I went to Europe the first time with my thela, I went to 5-6 people, please explain me, teach me, I am going first time. They said, chhad do. Germany is never going to buy from you. Europe hates Indian product. As a woman, nobody is going to listen to you. So nobody told me that you are doing a great job, please go. And if I had listened to them, I would have never gone. So please understand, when people pull you down, seriously, they are jealous of you. They don't understand women capabilities. I don't know how to point out why they do what they do, but they exist. Rejection happens. I need you guys to see a YouTube video called 100 Rejections. That is my mantra. Every time somebody said nah to me, I would say, nahi, doesn't like me. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Sorry, rejection doesn't matter. It is a quality that we have to force upon ourselves because we are so fearful of somebody saying no to us or writing us off that we never go back again. So this is one issue which I suffered from, and I really saw everything. Every time somebody didn't answer my phone call, oh, he's too big, he's not going to answer my phone call. Seriously? Maybe he's just busy. But because of our own fear of rejection or our own understanding of rejection, it becomes a pain to being successful. Time management. This in itself is a whole program, but I feel women manage their time very, very poorly. I think every woman should do a 1-week study of how she does, what she does the whole day, document it, put it in the 4 quadrants, and ensure कि कोई भी आंटी फोन करके आधा घंटा फोन करे लेकिन तुमने बात भी नहीं करनी पर तुम करते रहते हो. Hello, that half an hour could be used well. And when I talk to any woman, whether she's a teacher, because we do this time management for teachers, and I go, ma'am, आप तो इतनी बातें कर रहे हो, but time नहीं है. Seriously? Have you ever studied what you do with your time? Have you ever quantified what you do and see what you can delegate? This is such an important tool that each of us really needs to work on. The moment you kind of divide your time intelligently, time will happen and you will get time to do your music, you will get time to read, evolve and do everything you want to do which you've written off and put under the carpet. Get a mentor. She spoke about mentorship. I 100% believe you need a mentor, and usually you don't take one because you're embarrassed or you're shy. Women are by nature shy and embarrassed and scared to go out there. One of my mentors is sitting here, JR, and he's the one who took me to CII, and thanks to him I was heading CII Punjab, the first woman to be head of CII Punjab. Thanks to him. And he was the guy who told me, look, I said, I don't know anybody there. What am I going to do in CII? Everybody is 2,000 crore company. I said, koi baat hi nahi karega. He said, maine bol diya na chalna hai. And he was the one who took me there. I was the only woman who used to be on the CII meetings. Eventually, 2 meetings down the line, I didn't care and he's my best friend. And today if I have a problem, I call him. Ki ye kaise karu? And you need a sounding board. But that sounding board should be far better than you, or far more evolved, or far more experienced. Right? Where are you going to get those? Have a list of mentors, call them. There's no need to feel shy. I have spoken to so many people and said, can you be my mentor? And they said, yeah, fine. Can I come and spend a day with you and see how you run your company? Yeah, fine. And it's just that we don't ask because we are so scared. Mentorship is absolutely essential. Make your lists. It's going to take you places. Last slide. We are all unique. We are all fabulous. As she said, we have no replicas. We have potential. We have passion. We have unending abilities. It's just that we don't know them, we don't see them, or we don't want to see them because we have excuses. I think now the time of excuses is over. We live in a world of disruption. Disruption brings unending opportunities. We were just talking with Premji about disruptions and what's happening to the world. I think disruptions are bringing unending opportunities for women. Work from home. There's so much happening. It's just that we need to focus and get our act right. Thank you.
Oh my God, I think we just actually saw that short movie in which man could actually see you, watch you, and have that inspiration to actually dream and then go, rather than listening to the everyday stories, we are married to joint family, have so and so things, but the key is actually please do dream, and then things they do start falling into place. Thank you so much for amazing thought you actually gave and perspective you gave today. And with that note, I invite Ms. Gulneet Chehal to be here on the stage and then introduce our next speaker, Ms. Manraj Sharma.
So, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed been a very fabulous 1.5 hour movie, listening to these incredible women talk about how to break the glass ceiling, about dreaming, about setting goals, about time management. It's really, really amazing. Thank you, LMA, for giving me the opportunity to host and welcome and introduce the third speaker of the day, one of the very, very remarkable journalists in today's times, Manraj Sharma. So here, a journalist introducing a journalist, it's definitely going to be short and it's going to be direct, very frankly. So Manraj is the resident editor of the very beautiful English national daily Indian Express at Chandigarh. And besides this, she is the author of a very critically acclaimed book titled Dreams After Darkness, which delves into the profound, sorrowful times of Punjab during militancy. I believe as a woman, to delve into that chapter come out with a different narrative, which is a real narrative in itself, is a big, big thing. It's like breaking the glass ceiling. And besides this, Manraj has had an editorial role as managing editor of the prestigious journal Gender, Technology and Development, published by the Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok. Well, she's known for insightful perspectives and a very impactful journalism. Manraj's career amplifies resilience, leadership, and dedication towards addressing social issues. She inspires so many of us, I'm sure, as we strive to break our own invisible barriers, these so-called glass ceilings laden with layers and layers of ice. And let's all seek transformation, progress, and liberation in different aspects of life, however we see it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for the very incredible Manraj Sharma as we celebrate her remarkable journey and the inspiration she brings to this event today. Manraj.
Thank you, Gulli, for the very, very wondrous words. Thank you, thank you, LMA. Thank you, Harpreet, for having me here. And yeah, and also I am so impressed, so wowed by the speakers before me. These amazing life stories. I'm truly inspired. So I have prepared something, but I don't have a life story half as interesting as theirs. I think the only thing was that yes, I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be not just a journalist, but the editor of the Indian Express. When I was in class 3. And that was because my father was in the army, and wherever he was an infantry officer, and wherever he would go, wherever he was posted, we would get the Indian Express. And just because he liked reading very much, and I was his very favorite daughter. I have a sibling, I have a brother. So, and my father was always partial to the daughter. So I took up after my father. Since he enjoyed reading the paper, so did I. And Arun Shourie used to be the editor those days. And every day there would be something about Devi Lal ne unko gali thi. Unhone, how did he respond? It was a very exciting time. And I think that is what egged me on to, without even realizing what an editor means or whatever. So, I don't know. I mean, their life story and I don't think I encountered very many challenges, except for my mother, who said, editor, newspaper mein, why? You should become a lecturer. You should become an IAS officer. That was the first thing. So as soon as because I used to score well, that was because my father had, he said, my bacha is the best. So in fact, that is one of the leadership lessons I learned very early in life, perception management. So he would tell me, you are the best. So when I started school, I don't know, during my times, teachers would come and ask, who is the best child in the class? And I would get up and say, me, because I had been told you are the very best. And so, after 3 teachers had asked me, when the 4th teacher came and asked, the whole class said, Manraj. I didn't have to, and I very beautifully got up with it. So that was one lesson, that just as they say, my husband is a lawyer, that justice should just be done. It should seem to be done. So, no matter how hard you work, there's something called perception management. Others need to know. Now, this is completely unrelated. I mean, getting up myself and saying I'm the best and so on. But yeah, so what happened is, because my father believed you are the best and you have to come first in class, because he would say, second best is nothing. Why would you be second? So every time we were posted to a new school, the first question I would ask is, every 2 years we got posted, he was in infantry. So the first question I would ask my classmates is, first kaun aata hai? And then size up my opponent, without the poor opponent knowing. There was this scheming girl. So net, I did well in academics. So my mother, being a very ambitious mother, but very protective, said, you will either become a bureaucrat or a lecturer. Why a lecturer? Because you get 2 months annual leave or whatever. Chuttiyan what milti hai. Work-life balance is all done. So which was great. But my heart was in journalism. So as luck would have it, we had this, there was this entrance test for a journalism course, and I said I will just go and give that test, just to figure out whether I can clear it. I cleared it. My mother was visiting her brother in the US. My father was very supportive, so she wasn't told anything about it, and I joined. So when she came back, she was like very, very mad. But we went through that. So that one barrier was broken. Then Indian Express advertised, and they said they need people younger, below 25, because they were going to launch something very path-breaking. The first city newspaper, and that too of Chandigarh. People thought Chandigarh is very boring. It's one-horse town. And they flew balloons saying, don't go out of the town on next Monday or whatever. So I remember traveling in Shatabdi and everybody saying, Monday ko kya hone wala hai? So it was Chandigarh Newsline was going to be launched. Anyhow, I took that test, I cleared it, and I was called for an interview. I cleared that as well. And the editor's PA calls up home, and those days they were landlines, right? My grandmother picks up and she inquires, night shift hoti hai? Raat ko kaam karna hota hai? And she tells him, we are not interested. And that is the end of it. So it's just that the editor thought that I was very, very keen during my interview. They called up again. And I happened to pick up the phone. And they said, your mother or grandmother or whatever told us you're not interested. But we just want to confirm. I said, not at all. I'm bloody well interested. Who said? And there my grandmother, all sitting and pretending she never said that. So that began my career in journalism. And journalism is very nice, it's very gender neutral. And by the time I joined the profession, it had become gender neutral. So I was told many stories by my seniors, for instance, that women were not promoted above a certain level because they were not given night shifts on the desk. So my senior colleague, Mukta Banerjee, I still remember her name, she went up to the editor and said, I am ready to do the night shift, I am ready to even come in on my own and leave on my own, but I need a promotion. I am not going to be working under people who I think are not fit to be my bosses. So she took up the banner, and by the time we joined, there was no such, women could come at night, work at night. There used to be a van. So it became part of the policy, I think with all the newspapers, that you would, if there was a night shift, the women would be picked up from home and she would be dropped back. So it was all hunky-dory. It's just that as we started, and I learned a lot of leadership lessons on the way. My first editor, we were 5 of us who were selected. He said something which I treasure until now. He said, there are all of you, everybody comes, everybody works, but why is it that only a few people rise to the top? So he said that is because they just do 5% extra. So it isn't that, there's a huge difference between who goes to the top and who remains. It's just that one person does what is given to him, and one person says, I will do 5% extra. And just like mutual funds, like we hear so much about them, the compounding is huge. So if you do it every day and make it internalize that, the fruits are amazing. So that I realized very quickly, because you have a probation period, after which out of 5, only 2 people got to the next level, the other 3 stayed where they were. But as I went up the ladder, I also realized that there were a large number of men, a large number of male bosses, and they were all born together over a glass of old monk. And sometimes you start wondering, I will never be part of this all-boy crowd because I don't drink and I will not go partying with them. And so that, I remember talking about it to another colleague, and she said, that's all right, the bosses will always be men, and a man will choose another man. But as things changed, and luckily I was very fortunate. I had seniors who were very good, and I think the promotions happened, but that glass ceiling was broken by someone else. I happened to get married and leave, and by the time I came back, women editors had taken over. So there were many women editors, and that thing that a woman could not lead because it's a very trying job. It's because you need to not just drive a team, you also need to interact with politicians, you need to interact with a wide group of people, and somehow the perception was that you're not up to it, and you will have to man up. You will have to stop being a woman and to start being a man. So I think all that is bunked up. We are very clear now. But the only good thing is, when I came back and started reworking, just because I had been working so hard earlier, I came back after 9 years. My husband was in the Philippines, so I was with him. And then I came back, and they asked me to come back. And I joined another paper, Hindustan Times, and after which my paper realized, I still had it in me. And within a year, I was back I finally fulfilled my dream. I was made the resident editor. So life is nice, dreaming is very good. As far as leadership is concerned, I think it's very important to lead from the front, because you can't expect, in the army, this is a cardinal rule, that you lead from the front. You can't expect your troops to go and die. If as an officer you can't, which is why in Kargil War, we lost so many young officers. We all know of Captain Vikram Batra because so many movies have been made on him. But there's this one particular officer I always remember. He was from the northeast. So he saw that fire was coming on the Indian side. There was a lot of shelling from a particular area because the Pakistanis were up. They were at a height, which is why we were incurring so many losses. And he said he felt that if we were to put a machine gun at this height, it was a precipice, it was a cliff, then we will be able to fire back at them. So what he did is he removed his shoes and he climbed up. He was a good climber. He was, I think, from Manipur or Mizoram or one of those northeastern states. He climbed up, he installed the machine gun, but then he fell off and he died. But see, that changed the whole course of that little battle. So there were so many such stories. Whether it is in the business domain or in any other domain, a leader has to has to lead from the front, because that's the only way he can inspire. Otherwise, you could be like the dolphin trainer. You know how dolphins do the tricks? They give them truckloads of fish, so then the dolphin will dance. And then again, if you want her to perform another trick. So that's one way of leading your team, which is like incentivizing, giving lots of money, which is fine. You do deserve that. But the I think the better way is to make a person part of a bigger picture. For instance, in our newspaper, we have lots of women. I think one of my colleagues is amongst you. So Rakhi Jatta, even if she's holidaying somewhere and it's midnight and she finds out there's some breaking news, Rakhi will break the news because she doesn't want to let her paper down. There is so much sense of belonging. So as a leader, if you can make sure that your employees actually feel they belong to your business and that business is as much theirs as it is of their boss, half the battle is won. Because then the whole team will row together in one direction. And I think what they said, I had the privilege of traveling with President Abdul Kalam, and he used to just say three things. One is, he used to say, look, I was such a poor fisherman's son. So dream big. As I said, dream absolutely, be as audacious as possible. And then acquire knowledge, acquire all the learning that is required to reach there, and work very, very hard. You know, most people feel there are shortcuts to success, but I feel hard work always pays. And one thing I've seen, that maybe you may be working for someone, working in a position where you may not get the rewards that you feel you should have got. But there's something very karmic about it. There's somebody, that goodness will come to you in some other form. And and focus. It's very important to focus for any leader, because no matter how much work you have, if you could just focus on the work at hand, that gets done very, very fast. So Gary Player is a golfer, right? And he used to say, you know, whenever somebody is playing golf and there's a gallery, there are people watching you, generally the person says, "Sab kuch chup karao," because I am going to hit a ball. So this guy used to say, you know, when I am hitting a ball, I can't see anything else, I can't hear anything else. It's almost like Arjun hitting when he hit the eye of the fish, he couldn't see anything else. So if you could bring that kind of focus into your life, you will, and women are very good at it. I can see, you know, there are times I know I'm talking to a colleague and wo khadka ho raha hai. It's like burtle, ya kadai or whatever, but she is focusing on what I'm saying. So she gets a lot of stuff done. So I think that's about it. We've covered most of it. So dream very big. Don't let anyone think that you can't do. And this applies as much to men as to women. And also, one last thing for women, also learn to say no. Because I've seen women never say no. Ye bhi kar lo, wo probably, you know, they are doing their best to make sure they are the best mothers, best daughters-in-law, best daughters, best wives, best whatever, and there's nowhere they say no. So that is when you suddenly see, oh, there is somebody, she's had a meltdown. That's because she's trying her level best to be good at everything. So just politely but firmly, if you can't, just put your foot down, be it at home. And also, lastly, for the ladies, learn how to be a leader at home with your husband. Lead him. Don't be late. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Munraji. I mean, actually giving that seed, a very strong seed by all of the visionaries here, that dream big. And that is the biggest, take home, I think, for me today, because I never imagined, you know, that at times we think, you know, we're thinking bizarre, we're thinking big, ye ho nahi sakta, you know. But then listening to such stories give you that spark again and that energy again. So thank you, stellar visionaries, disruptors and change makers out here to actually give us those valuable insights to actually break the ceiling. And I would like to invite Diksha ji to be here on the stage. Okay. So before that, I think let's have a Q&A. If anyone out here have questions for our esteemed speakers here, that the house is open for Q&A. Can you have a mic here?
Thank you so much for such a wonderful sharing, I would say. My question is, which was the most hardest seed to break out of so many? Anybody? I think for me was motherhood. Because it came out at a time when I finished my Siachen Glacier. I posted to a unit and I was posted to a flying spot, and there everybody was flying. I was medically down And those days of woman being medically down was not taken in the right spirit because it's not blaming anyone, it's just the mindsets were like that, right? They have evolved over a period of time, but at that point in time the mindsets were very primitive, and I was the only one who was not flying. So all my previous accolades, my achievements were dismissed, absolutely. And any work that nobody wanted to do used to land up at my table. So as a result of which people would come into the squadron, they would fly and go back, and I would keep sitting and keep working on the paperwork and the ground stuff. And I don't know, it was coincidentally my husband got posted to some other place. So I was alone with my daughter, and I looked for a maid to look after her, and I had joined work when my daughter was just 1 month old, because we used to have maternity leave only for 2 months. It changed later, much later. So she was just 1 month old, and I would leave her and I would come to office, and I was like, my office was about 7 kilometers away from where I was working, and she was dependent on me, so I had to go and feed her. And my commanding officer, he would tell me that every time you go, you have to take my permission. And that was something I could not deal with, because I used to find it so damn humiliating, asking for permission to feed your daughter. I mean, can you beat it? But I did that. I did that because I knew I could not give up. And, we were 6 course mates when we joined the Air Force. All of my course mates, they gave up Air Force when they came to that stage of life. There's something very difficult to deal with, and like she covered this huge amount of mother's guilt that we carry, and we try to be a best mother, trying to be a best professional, and that's when you realize it's not possible to have a balance in life. Nothing can be balanced. Even seesaw is unbalanced, right? So it's being okay with the not okays that you go through in life, and the realization that no matter how hard it gets, it's not a permanent situation, it will change. But practically at that point in time, it was a struggle for me every single day. Keeping that drive on, remaining that self-motivated, having that smile on my face was the most difficult thing. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. It was actually an honest sharing to break this glass ceiling of motherhood. I'm really, really grateful. Today I would like to share one thing. There's another glass ceiling in spirituality also. It's said always in most of the Shastras कि नारी को पुरुष के बिना मुक्ति नहीं मिल सकती. Is it true? I don't think so. For the liberation and for freedom, do we need to be a man? Today I'm rethinking on that, looking at such beautiful women who have attained such a high state of leadership. I think so this class should also be.
Good evening, ma'am. My question is for Ms. Namrata. Foremost, congratulations, ma'am, on a great, inspiring journey both in life as well as in helicopters. One thing I'd like to ask you while you were speaking about your story, what part did love for your country play in the entire story? We could understand about your pursuit to become something, become a woman of substance, pursue something that you love. But did love for your country play any part?
Did what?
Love for your country.
Love for my country, yes. See, my combination is Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Father's a farmer and we are all in the armed forces. Very patriotic from the word, because that upbringing plays a huge, it has a huge impact on the, what vision you have, what you want to do in life. So we used to hear a lot of stories of Bhagat Singh, and my bedtime stories given by my granny and my mother. So somewhere, yes, patriotism is there, but I truly feel that each one of us are patriotic, irrespective of what we do, provided what we're doing is with a lot of sincerity and intention behind, what we do is very important. So irrespective whether we are in uniform, not in uniform, we all have that obligation to do something for a country. That's what I truly feel. The second thing is that, yes, because life is on the line all the time, right? The risks that we face are a different kind of a risk in terms of giving our lives. That's what happens. And the fact is that in my lifetime, I have attended more funerals than the weddings I had. But irrespective, I feel all of us are obliged to work towards a better future for everybody in this country. And we all are equally responsible, irrespective of what we do. And no matter what we do it with full sincerity. And we always strive to be a better version of ourselves. Right? Like she covered, there's no end to your learning, to your growth, to your upscaling. If that's the belief, because now, like I said, I gave up flying because there was a conjunction when my husband and we've been away for 12 years, right? I was doing my own profession, and then I thought, now I need to give this up and come back. But I'm planning to go back to flying again, which means starting from scratch. I have to literally sit down and write all my exams again, which is humongous effort, right? And so my husband tells me, अभी तुम सोगी भी तो किताब तुम्हारे पिलो के नीचे होगी, 5 बजे उठ के पढ़ना शुरू करोगी. I have to do that. I have to literally slog for next 4 to 5 months to clear all my exams and start flying again. But then dreams have no age, right? So that's all. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
Perhaps I have another question, ma'am. You've spoken about the relationship with the star while you were young. What is the current relationship status?
Oh yeah, they always inspire me. Just that I feel so guilty as mankind. We put that huge layer which stops it from even admiring them. And we all need to be responsible for that. You see the condition of pollution that's happening, right? And how many of us did not burst crackers this year? You did not? Yeah. Let's do that more. Spread this word. The planet doesn't need us. We need the planet, right? And I think it's high time we rise up to it and do something about it. Thank you.
Hi, good evening everyone. Thank you so much, esteemed speakers, for being present here, and I'm sure that all the women today in this hall must be really motivated and taking good take-home lessons from the way you have guided all of us through. Now my particular question is with the retired Wing Commander Namrata Charlie, and truly respect you, ma'am, for what you have done, but my question is that in all these years of you being in force, when was the time when you were really scared, and how did you overcome that fear of yours?
Yeah. I was really scared. I was scared before I was flying. I was scared. Like, she covered, right? Her mom. So my mom also used to tell me, "Beta professor ban jao. बहुत अच्छी life है, family balance है, बच्चों को ध्यान and all that," she would say. And my mother is a lady who is very, very fearful. She's full of fears, all kinds of fears, and if there's nothing, she can imagine something and get into fear, right? Now dealing with that was a challenge for us, and she would call us and say, "Beta, raat ko जहाज ध्यान से चलाना." And imagine the karmic cycle. Both her daughters were into flying, so I'm sure she had a lot of restless nights and sleepless nights. But when I was truly scared, I don't know. I really don't know. Because see, the point is when you get into it, yes, but the first sortie I remember because, I used to have a lot of road sickness before I joined Air Force. And I remember every time I used to even go on the roads, I would take that anti-vomiting Evergreen and, then travel. And then I was also scared of heights to talk to, right? And the first sortie that I flew, it's called the Air Experience Sortie, and I had never sat in an aircraft before that, imagine. And now here was I sitting with my instructor going for an Air Experience Sortie, and I had slipped a polythene bag in my pocket. because I knew I would puke, you know. But you know, a mind is such a beautiful instrument if you know how to use it. So what I was focusing in that sortie, and the first year experience sortie that happens, the instructor loves to show off. So he will do all kind of aerobatics, all kind of spirals, and you know, he tie the aircraft down and do all that maneuver to show off that he's a very good flyer and you better respect him. So he did all that in that sortie, and I came back and I did not puke. And that's really surprised me. What happened? And then I realized my mind was so focused on the checks and the procedures and what was happening in the aircraft, I did not allow my mind to wander. Right? And that was a huge lesson that I learned. He talked about focus, right? Where you focus, where your energy flows, your results will show. So whether you're distracted or you're on track, your outcomes will happen there. So that was one thing that happened, and I think before the sortie I was damn scared that if I puke and they come to know I'm road sick, this may be the end of my story. Yeah, that was the one that I was.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Before I ask my question, I want to thank you, all three of you. The things which you have shared with us today are not only inspiring for women, but they're also greatly inspiring for men. So, my question is with Kamna Rajman. Ma'am, in one of your slides, you mentioned about pessimists. You said pessimists ignore. So, just I want to ask you, what's your way of differentiating between pessimist and somebody who's actually giving you a negative critique of something? Because we would come across people who would not agree with us all the time. Sometimes their disagreements are logic-based. So, how do you work that out?
A really good question. I haven't really thought about it because I don't like negative comments any which way. But I think as you go along in life, you know, you're faced with the situation. So when I talk about pessimist is when you go to somebody and you are looking out for somebody to support you in your thought process. I was going to Germany for the first time and I went to people to ask, you know, what would make me succeed? What were the tips that I needed to take? And all the feedback that I got was, you know, don't even bother trying. So that's pure pessimism. And I think a lot of us would kind of take it as a negative and kind of shy away from purpose, but I think some of us, and I see a lot of resilient women, will turn around the other way. Okay, so if you think it's a bad idea, I'll show you it's not a bad idea. You know, so it's how you take it. But you absolutely have a point. There are times when you need negative critique. A lot of times, and this is not gender-centric, it happens with men as well. You critique a situation, you will be, you don't want to accept it. Part of it comes from experience, part of it comes from, maybe an ego, where you say, I don't want to listen to somebody. But the seed of thought has already been planted in your head. So maybe you negate it at that point in time, but it's a thought which you will always go back to when you take a decision. So I think negative critique is very good. Of course, all of us are egotists, and in situations we don't want to listen. You learn the hard way, and a lot of times you don't listen, and later on you say, "I keep bol raha tha." So that always happens. But that's life. That's growing up. situations in relationships were bad and good at that time as well, and they are bad and good at this point too. Now, it was very clandestine at that time, people didn't talk about it, but women suffered. Now, women are talking about it, it's more in your face, and probably women are standing up and saying, okay, enough is enough. Now, I completely agree with you that it also veers sometimes towards a situation where women become, very obstreperous, very arrogant, and they don't care about institutions. So you have a point there. There is a sanctity to relationship. There is a sanctity to... if a woman has had a really hard time in her marriage, she usually educates her daughter to say, don't take any nonsense. Whereas there are women and families where they've been very tradition bound. They will tell their kids that there is a relationship decorum which has to be maintained. Now, in my own case, if I give you my example, I got married at 16, as I told you, so I never had any education per se. But when my daughter was growing up, I told my husband I want my kids to get sterling education. So my daughter went to Harvard, and she did a double postgrad, and then she said, Mom, I still want to study some more. And we said, Bete, I think you're hitting 26, I think it's time you came back. So you have two options. You want to go solo and you want to become a professional, that's fine. But then when you hit 32, don't come back to me and say you never got me married and you never, now I'm alone and miserable in the world. Because in India, to be alone is not such a nice thing. I don't think globally it's such a nice thing to be alone. There is something to be said about the sanctity of family. I think many of us will agree to that. Some may not, because there are women who are fine to be themselves. That's totally my impression. So I told her, if you want to get married and if you believe in the institution of family, you need to get back. And there is a time when you need to get married. And both my kids had arranged marriages. In this world and time, people think I'm a bit weird. But we knew what our kids were about. I knew what my daughter was about. She had lived in America. She had run her own apartment. She was very, very intelligent. She wanted purpose in her life. So we had to be sure that she went into a family where they would respect that. She's gone into a joint family, but she's on her third entrepreneurial business, and she was able to convince the family. Now, it's a very touch and go situation. I think men have to reinvent themselves. They have to understand women have changed. They have to give women breathing room. And I think women have to also understand that taking a sledge and a hammer because their mothers had a rough deal isn't the answer. So I think both the institution of marriage has changed, the institution of relationships and family have changed. And I think all of us need to reinvent ourselves in creating firmer bonds in a new world. So I think that's my take on it.
We need a very gender agnostic world. We can't have a world where women think men are their enemies, or where men think women have become very overbearing and they are our enemies. And parents can play a big role in it, because if you bring up your children to respect all genders, both genders, I'm sure there will be no friction. And I see youngsters are far more equal than we were. Things haven't come to such a pass that mother is going to tell her son that please play with this doll or Barbie doll or whatever. That they haven't reached that far. But I think parents are bringing up more aware, more sensitive children. And as far as the institution of marriage is concerned, I think it is each to his own. So if you are happy and contented with yourself, and if you don't find someone to your liking, it's completely alright to be on your own. Your parents are there, there are your siblings, then you have friends, and then you can have a higher cause. And then there is always this supreme being. I mean, we did not touch upon it, but there is a higher force. And if we meditate, we talk about mindfulness, there is so much that can give us fulfillment.
we don't really need to be completely dependent on others. Anybody, men or women. That's it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for such an amazing, awe-inspiring and thoughtful experience we had today. And for that, I would like to invite our Chair of Women's Forum, Ms. Diksha, to be here and say a few words as a vote of thanks.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, our distinguished guests. It was really, really inspiring session that we had today. I think most of us entrepreneurs especially have our own, set of stories to share and discuss, and listening to all of you, bringing our little things and touching those points and okay, mere saath bhi aisa kabhi hua tha, yeah, those little things. But of course, the men out here, we are not here to, not invited you to listen just the women-centric part of us, but then the whole idea is to work and move hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder together, and that's how we can bring this, break the barriers, as we say. And thank you, each one of you, and I will not touch, a lot of things that have inspired me, because I think most of things have been said and done. So yes, thank you. And I would like to invite Mrs. Kang to please close the event. And please, thank you.
Good evening. I see the hall is a little lighter today. I presume and understand that a lot of people felt this was only for women. Regardless, those of us who made it, well, what the hell, we made it. We hit up the jackpot, right? I believe each one of them here have touched a vein with us. I am so immersed into what they've said today evening. And I could relate to you in so many different ways. As a journalist with Manraj, as a pilot with Wing Commander Chandni, as an entrepreneur with Kamna, so many different points of touching and going. So it was very fulfilling day for me. I trust we all came with questions, and a lot of them were answered. I'm sure we have a few more. We'll take them over for dinner. But for now, we'd like to honor our esteemed resource people, guests, keynote speakers. I'll hand over Swati, not stand in the middle of that. Thank you so much for everyone who made it.
Thank you, Madam President, and I would like you to please honor our guests with a token of appreciation. Thank you everyone for your valuable time and amazing, wonderful audience. And now the house is open for dinner, and let's have our discussions and over our plates. Thank you so much.
It would be great if you could give me some guidance and like.
Yeah.